Hi, Yvadney. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
So good to see you fresh off Portrait Artist of the Year. Shall we start there?
Yeah, sure. That TV show is my favourite show. I like to start each year with a vision board, and I put Portrait Artist of the Year on for this year. And then I had a really bad accident and broke my wrist and thought, I'm not going to be able to do this application. And once the pain had settled a bit with my hand still in the cast, I did my self portrait. It wasn't my favorite piece of work ever because it was quite painful, like painting it in like one armed pirate. But I got a call saying that I was on the show. I decided that even though I think I'm pretty good at getting likeness, I wanted to practice. And I would suggest that to anyone who applies for either portrait or landscape artist, because you've got such a small amount of time. So I did loads of practicing, which was great. It's very overwhelming being in your TV effectively, but I love the experience. I had such really good questions from the judges, an amazing sitter with Ainsley, and I had an amazing experience. The people in the audience were very supportive. It was disappointing not to go through, but I knew that I hadn't made a total fool of myself. Ainsley chose my portrait. I made some amazing connections with the other artists. It was a huge surprise to get a call a couple of weeks later saying the judges hadn't stopped thinking about me and they wanted me to go back. But the second time round, I think I went in there with complete imposter syndrome because I kept thinking, but why me? What about all the other artists that I know must have been incredible? And being self taught and very new to this whole world, I think I just made it harder for myself getting in my head. And so the atmosphere was quite tense for the semi final. It was Emma Bunton, and I'm a big Spice Girl fan. And you think you know her face, but it's different. And it was challenging, but I decided to just give it my all. Again, that was just such an incredible experience. And there have been so many like kind comments from people I know and fans of the show. I messaged Kathleen, one of the judges, this morning, and she was just saying, go for it.
And you were a semi-finalist on your
Yeah.
favorite show. It was your vision for the year. You accomplished that. I'm sure you've got so much feedback, but also new people following you on
Yeah.
social media, on your website. It's really fantastic. You should
Yeah.
be so proud of yourself.
Thank
Um,
you.
let's bring it back a bit. Tell me about you, about your practice. You have quite a creative job in fashion. You've transitioned to being a contemporary artist, primarily figurative and portrait.
Yeah, I think I've always loved art. People will still ask my mum if I'm still drawing all these years later. But my big passion was fashion. Sounds corny. And that's where I put all my focus on for my career. So I hadn't really done any art or painting since my art foundation. And then the lockdown gave me an opportunity to have the time that I hadn't given myself. And it all started with a bit of homeschooling with the children and just trying to give them an interesting experience. So I took them out into the garden and got them to just draw whatever they saw. And I did a couple of portraits of them and realized that it wasn't so much that I was still good at creating art, but it gave me a feeling that I hadn't felt in a very long time. It was like the missing jigsaw piece, and it was very healing. But yeah, I just started doing self portraits of myself, and then I just share them on Instagram, and people started asking me if I sold my work, and I was like, what? Why would I sell anything? But I thought, you know what, I'll do some print. And on the first day, there were just so many sales. It's incredible. I cried at the end of that day. I couldn't believe it. There were sales from all over the world, Australia, the UK, America, and I just thought, wow, people really love what I'm doing. And at the time, my focus really was on womanhood. I turned 40 in the pandemic, and it was like, who am I? I love fashion. I've still got some sensuality going on here, still badass. And it really connected with these women who were buying these portraits. And then, yeah, the leaning into the wallpaper and more of this kind of storytelling was just hanging out with my granny who had dementia, and it was like her final months back in her home, and looking around and thinking all of these things that mean so much to me in my culture mean nothing to my children, but they're so significant in power. I want to find a way of bridging her generation with all of us. And I decided to choose wallpaper because even though that kind of tacky 70s, 60s wallpaper, it's very working class, but for people of the Windrush generation, they were really proud of their homes, and their homes were a sanctuary, they were a place of joy, music, fun, family. So I wanted to paint young people on these wallpaper. I'd never decorate my home with that wallpaper, but just thinking you could have a small taste of it in your home. So when I started doing that, it was so interesting because it was resonating with other people of Caribbean heritage, but I had people who were from like white working class backgrounds, other immigrants, others. So it was very inclusive, and people felt that it touched on talking about parents. It just connected with people in a way that I didn't expect, particularly when people looked at my work in the flesh. I would see people having very emotional reactions to the work, which was powerful. And that's when I started having commissions and was shortlisted for the RA, and I was in a M&C Saatchi exhibition, and thought, this isn't just a hobby, this is something more. And I still felt a little bit out of my depth as a newbie, and that's why I came to you guys.
I think it might be interesting for other artists who might have had a full-time job in a creative profession like you, where you were in fashion, and you can see that in your work, where there's a lot of color, there's a lot of print. You can see the influence of textile, and your eye for fashion is still there. Or whether people have had just jobs that pay the bills, man. So tell us a bit about being self-taught. And I know sometimes you use terms like, I've got to fight the imposter syndrome, or I have to find my way in the art world. Tell us a bit about that.
Sometimes I'm going into spaces and people are using language that feels really abstract for me. And initially I felt like that was something that was essential. But I think on the flip side, the bonus of being self-taught means that you can just be like a off center. You're allowed to speak in a language that feels comfortable to you. You don't have to use academic terms or even techniques to produce your work. And ultimately, for me, particularly starting all of this on social media, it was direct. The work I was producing was direct to the viewers in a way. And so what mattered most was the fact that I was creating something that was meaningful to me, and it was meaningful to them too. So all of the kind of fluffy, abstract language, techniques about light and shade, everything I was doing is just very intuitive. And at this stage in my art practice, there are definitely some like more formal things that I'm doing to improve my technique or explore new ways of putting things onto canvas. But yeah, I think there is a bonus to being self-taught as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our focuses on the art ladder was we want it to be accessible to all artists. And also we avoid with a passion, abstract, flowery vocabulary that leaves you at the end of a talk sometimes thinking, what did I just listen to?
Yeah.
What was this about? So you were mentioning that when you first found us and the art ladder, you were finding your way in the art world and feeling a bit out of your depth, feeling a bit like you were looking around, trying to navigate. Can you tell us about that, about where you were when you
Yeah.
first started?
I think it's quite interesting because it does come back to this imposter syndrome. I'm producing work and kind of sharing it with one eye open, like a bit like this. I'd got two pieces into the ING Discerning Eye exhibition, and I was starting to think, actually, this is something, and I'm producing good work. And I met Penny at the private view, and we were just talking, and I was like, I really feel like I could do with a mentor or something like that. And she said, aha, we offer just the thing, just to help me get out of my head, have someone look at this with a more knowing eye. If it's the fashion industry, I'm super confident. I know exactly how everything works. But I wanted to know that if I'm going to put more time and energy and hopes and finances into this, it's going in the right direction. I've done my website myself, but does it work? Is this what a good artist website looks like? My Instagram, is there something more that I could be doing? Things. And that's why I decided to do the mentoring, just out of respect for myself and my potential.
I love that. I love that you're saying it's an investment that I'm making in myself. And
Yeah,
it's something I'm saying about myself to myself. I'm saying,
yeah,
hey, I believe in you, kid. And
yeah.
I think you've got something worthwhile to say. So might as well take the right steps. So you first found the art ladder about a year ago. A lot has happened this year. So tell us, where are you now? How has your path as an artist progressed since?
Yeah, this year I've been in some amazing exhibitions. It was Windrush 75. I created 4 portraits based on interviews with Windrush children, and they were exhibited in the Black Cultural Archives in Brixton. And I thought it would be within the building, but they actually made them giant scale and had them in the courtyard. So it meant that I could be going by in my car and see my artwork from way across the block. And it was open to the general public for the whole month. So that was incredible. And then I was also in a group show nearby in Brixton. I'm just meeting different people, different curators, different exhibition spaces, different people have found me. And then I decided to start the mentoring process with a one-to-one session, because I wanted it to be all about me and very intentional. And that was incredible, because I was basically told to stop hiding and take myself more seriously, which I did. But also, off the back of that, I got a really big commission with a insurance company, and I was like, how much? What am I doing here? It's a dream portrait. I'm not being expected to do anything to fit anyone else's style. They've come to me because they love what I do. And that means I'm really excited about what I'm creating for them, that is going to have a massive reveal in the spring and be displayed in their beautiful offices. And then I also have been commissioned by the Serendipity Institute. It's an exhibition that will be in Leicester Gallery next Black History Month, called 100 Black Women Who Have Made a Mark. And there are 5 artists, and I'm one of the 5. And I'm painting 20 portraits of incredible Black women. Some of them passed away many years ago. But I'm also doing these sittings with people. I've held damehoods in brooches on my hands, and I had these interviews with poets and nurses, just incredible women. And again, I'm free to represent them in any way that I want. So I'm busy, because that means 21 portraits by the end of spring. And yeah, behind me is just my own personal project that I'm starting, because I really want to have a solo show next year. So I think that's me. But now I'm
Wowzers.
busy. I'm painting a lot right now.
This is Amazing. I can't wait to see this one portrait, as you said, to be in the offices of an insurance company, and then these 20 portraits
Yeah.
of amazing women who've made a mark in Britain. Because you've reached a point where you're not hiding, where you're taking yourself seriously as an artist, it's amazing to see how people are mirroring that back at you and going, we want you to do you, which that's the dream, isn't it? It's to get those commissions, to get those shows, but at the same time feel like you're not compromising your artistic integrity. Can you tell us a bit about that? Because I think a lot of artists who come to us, they want to sell more, they want to generate an income from their work, they want to grow a sustainable career as an artist. But at the same time, they're afraid that when that success does come, they might have to be a one-trick pony, or they might have to churn out work that doesn't feel like them. Did you have those similar feelings, and how do you feel about that today?
Yeah, I definitely had those feelings. I think I had them prior to the mentoring though, because I remember my second commission, everything about it was not me, and I found it really hard work. And I decided after that, if I'm doing a commission, we'll work together. There are some things I want to know about how you want to be seen, but you're getting what I'm giving. I'm not going to paint in that way. This is how I paint, but I will capture your light. You'll love it. And it's amazing. Like I've sold a whole load of originals recently at a time that some of these originals have been sitting around for a while. But yeah, just stepping out with a bit more confidence has made a huge difference. So I've always had a sort of business model of having these beautiful prints as well, not of everything, but limited edition prints. But again, repeat customers are coming back, and some of those people who have bought those prints are now asking about investing in originals as well now. So yeah, they get me.
Yeah, again, it's something that we touch on. It's something that we mention on the art ladder, the originals, and when you start building an audience, how it might be useful to have the limited edition prints. Because as you said, the people who start the journey with you on the limited edition prints, which are more accessible as a price point, it's amazing to see some of them graduate and go, actually, do you know what? I'd really like an original. I'd really like a commission, or I'm ready for that next step. Is there anything through the Art Ladder program that you've learned?
I think I mentioned before about not hiding, and a big practical part of that meant sorting out my website, actually putting how would anyone know that I have originals to buy if they're not on my website? So actually putting them on it seems silly, but just having products available to buy and making sure that there was a section for it, that was a big thing. Also, my about me on my website was quite waffly, and I just made it much more succinct and had a CV on there. I'd never done a CV or thought about it, but the idea that there are people who will just have a look at my website, and making sure that some of that information that would be appealing to them and give the extra points are very clear for them to see. That was really, really good advice.
Is there a particular type of artist that you think might benefit? If you think about where you were 1 year ago, what would you say?
I'd recommend anybody join, but I do find it interesting in the artists that I'm meeting, particularly women who have had a career before and discovered this new passion. I would recommend it for that. We need that confidence and professionalism. You want to feel professional as well, and just having some of those very clear guidelines on how to navigate it well. I would recommend it for anyone who's transitioning from hobby to emerging.
Yeah, absolutely. The way we've built the program was it can be for people, as you say, who are transitioning from a professional career to other career,
Yeah.
whatever that may be, to wanting to be part-time as an artist, full-time as an artist. And it can also be for people who've been around for 30 years,
Yeah.
going, actually, I'm ready for the next step. I'm ready for the next level. And I want that confidence, and I want that support system, and I want that step-by-step roadmap to figure out what's the right path for me, because that's going to be different for a lot of artists. But there are some key guidelines that you can apply to your own practice.
Yeah. Also, I would say, as a mum, it's handy having the replays, because it generally, for me, it's the evenings. And so I can put it onto my TV and catch up on the replays. And I think there's a library I haven't even touched of videos to go through as well. So it works well, whether you're working part-time and you come back from work and you want to catch up in the evening. That's really useful.
If you're watching this and you're wondering what we're talking about, basically the Art Ladder has, on level 1, monthly interviews with art professionals. So that's curators, collectors, gallerists, and those happen live, as well as on level 2, you have surgery sessions where we go deep into the business of being an artist, don't we? So we talk about websites, planning, strategy, social media, organizing your own exhibitions. All of those happen live, but you get the recordings each month, and you have access to a library, which, as you said, has now 12 plus hours of content that you can access at any time. Before we wrap up, tell us, where can people find you? Where can they follow you?
So I will say, first off, with my name, Yvadney, it's with a Y. That's why people get so baffled by my name. So it's yvadney.art is my website. And then I'm also on Instagram, Yvadney Davis art. I am on TikTok when I remember that it's there. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Is there any top tips or nugget of wisdom that you'd like to share with artists watching this video?
Find your people, find your community. I've met just so many incredible artists, and it's just really great to not keep yourself isolated, because we're all in our studios creating. When you get out there and you just get exposed to other people's practices, you then pick up their tips as well, and also their encouragement. And it's just really good to have great cheerleaders around you, because I do find that the more I can then go to their exhibitions, and it's support and love going, more support and more love going around. So build your crew.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Yvadney, for taking the time. First of all, for being part of the Art Ladder, because we're really happy to have a fantastic community of artists who are also there to cheer each other on. And thanks for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you.